This is the podcast Your Spiritual Shift with hosts Jennifer Matthews and Carl Gruber. Your Spiritual Shift podcast. It's a show based on their online program of the same name. That's where Carl and Jen guide you to remember and implement into your daily life the truth about who you really are, a child of all that is, your source. We invite you to join Jen and Carl for each and every episode as they explore in depth the teachings and principles of true non-dualistic spirituality and their practical application. You can live your life without the ego's lack, attack, judgment, and guilt and thoughts of sin, and replace them with truth, unconditional love, innocence, pure joy, abundance, and a unity of purpose. Now, here's Jennifer Matthews and Carl Gruber with Your Spiritual Shift.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast, Your Spiritual Shift. I'm Carl Gruber, and alongside my co-host Jennifer Matthews, we bring you some amazing guests and teachers all about things dealing with non-dualistic true spirituality, with emphasis on the principles of the modern spiritual guide, A Course in Miracles. Now, before we check in with Jennifer and today's featured guest, please take a moment to click the subscribe button below so that you never miss a single episode of this show. Now, here's Jennifer Matthews to introduce our guest.
Thanks so much, Carl. Now, our amazing guest today is Tamara Calder-Richardson. She's from South Carolina in the US and is a self-described evidential psychic medium and messenger from heaven. Now, since a very young age, she's had the spiritual gifts of clairvoyance, remote viewing, mediumship, astral travel, and even channeling. She has experienced the healing, guidance, and divine protection of powerful archangels around her in her 6 near-death experiences and throughout her life. Yet, with all of this, Tamara has managed to own and operate a very successful career as the owner of an advertising agency, a boutique owner, and finally opening up her gifts, a trance channel for Jesus. Known as a Southern Belle Medium, here's Tamara Calder-Richardson. Hey, Tamara, how are you?
Oh gosh, hey Jen, that was beautiful. That's like the best I've ever heard. Hey Carl, thank you both for having me here.
Thank you so much for being here. Now, you have had the most amazing life to this point in time. You've been an owner of an ad agency, a boutique owner, a martial arts practitioner, an ordained minister, medium, trance channel. Geez, what haven't you done? We've read your story. We've read your story. We understand your abilities to connect with beings in the unseen realm started at a really young age. Can you go through your story and let us know how you came to be where you are today?
Oh, that's very sweet. Sure. And I just want to tell you again, thank you so much for asking me, because you two have wonderful, beautiful energy. So
thank you.
So that's a compliment that you have me, because it's a reflection of you. So thank you. I wish I could say, like some people, did you try to do, honestly, I fell into everything. I didn't, probably kicking and screaming, but I literally, everything was just, God has a plan for all of us. So it's like, I wasn't really seeking anything. I just followed my path. I do believe that my 6 near-death experiences did open me up to the higher level spiritual things. And if the connection to Yeshua, that's kind of always been in place, but it's really heightened. I really never thought I would talk publicly about me talking to him. I really didn't. I just never thought, that's kind of personal. I never really thought that would come out. But it was in March of 2020 that he came to me and he said, I want you to carry my messages. And I went, no, I don't feel comfortable with that. And it was the 17th, and then he gave it a day, and then he asked me again on the 19th, and he said, I have something I want you to tell people, and I want you to go on YouTube, and I want you to tell them. And I'd never really been on YouTube or anything like that. I'm not exactly, shy. I mean, I've had, my advertising business, I've done public speaking, I've done afterlife, speaking on the afterlife. I've done these things. I've taught at the Edgar Casey mediumship, and it's not like I haven't done it, but as you know, having a podcast and looking in the camera is totally different, and people don't understand that. And I actually came from, Carl, a radio and a broadcast family. My dad was a DJ and editorial announcer, so I used to go in as a kid and do that. But it is, and that's different too. It does help all these skills, but I didn't know much about the YouTube, and I wasn't really sure what he was going to say through me. I mean, not that I didn't trust him, but I told him no twice. And then on the 20th, he asked me again, and he says, I really want you to do this. And I'm like, I don't even have a YouTube channel. He said, I'm sure it's not that difficult to figure out. So I ended up saying yes in the third time, because I just couldn't bear, seeing him at some point later on, and that I said no. I mean, he'd probably be okay, but I said, don't you have other people? Certainly you got a lot of people, And so it's part of my soul's growth, I believe too. You know what I mean? He can do that, where it includes you, Carl, me, other people, so I did. And that came out March 22nd of my birthday, 2020. So it was sort of like, thanks for my life. I'll do this for you. And so I did. And I remember when I first did the channeling with him, I hate that, because I'm in I could go into a trance instantly, but I look weird. I think I look weird. I can go into lighter levels of trance where I'm talking to, I can do conscious channeling. And since then I can go right into him. I can go right in. You're like, does he have a message? I mean, we can do that later, but I can go right. I don't know why I can. I have no idea. I guess because I talk to him all the time and just hear him telepathy wise. But when I did this, there were 75 people on the Zoom. I was live on YouTube, did not have a clue. And I did not feel comfortable doing it because I was very open. And then people started asking personal things, and that really bothered me. And the second time was similar. And I said, I feel like this should be for everybody. People are kind of selfish. I don't really like this. And he said, don't worry about it. Once you just sit down, I'll write it out to you, and then you can speak it. You don't have to go into the thing, and you can just read it off and go over. But he would give me also scripture, which, embarrassingly to say, I didn't really know what they were. He would say 1 Peter blah, and I'm like, okay, and I would write down 3 to 5 of these things with the message. And later on, I went back and would review it, and it would be exactly what the message said, which was totally cool to me. But he had a limited amount. Yeah, he had a limited amount. And of course, it's the things you would think it would be, but he talks differently than I do. It's much more, it's softer. And it's also one thing can mean multiple things. And he loves talking about flowers a lot. But he talked about, he wanted to be everybody's best friend. He didn't really care about the whole religion thing, like, doesn't mean anything to him.
No.
He's like, it's like, doesn't even register. He's like everybody. And he wanted to say that he's everybody's best friend, and not to listen to man, because man will lie to us and twist things around. And it was important that you talk to him directly and let him tell you things, because he loves talking to people. So he encourages that. And a lot of it's just interesting, because I just got off a podcast. Someone was interviewing me about this, and it was Course in Miracles. And it was similar stuff he's told me, and he says everybody.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like A Course in Miracles is based around the non-dualistic spirituality. Hey, Maya, that's his cat. Is based on non-dualistic spirituality. And there is a difference between that and religion. And I think this is where people do get confused. And so we like to classify ourselves as spiritual, but not religious, and based on the Your Spiritual Shift brand. But I think that Jesus, I think everything that you've just said is just quite amazing. And I could understand in your podcast interview yesterday. Was it yesterday that you had the podcast interview? Or was that the one you just came off of?
Yeah, I just came off of that at like 4:30, and then I'm like, okay, and the link wouldn't click, and then the computer shut down. Thanks, Mercury retrograde. And I'm like, terrific. It all works out. We just have to laugh and roll with it. But yeah, I just came off of that, and
that's
cool. It is cool.
So that's so I guess I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh no, we were talking about A Course in Miracles and how this is, I just talked about that, and here we are again. So Jesus obviously wants this message out.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. So that was the message that he came to get you to tell people, is that we need to be talking directly to him rather than listening to man as such.
Well, I do want to point out real quickly, just for the viewers and listeners here, I think a lot of people don't know that the name Jesus and Yeshua are interchangeable.
Yeah.
Because even Gary Renard, one of the greatest teachers of the ACIM in the world, he says in his books, Yeshua was his name when he was alive. So yeah, if she says Yeshua, she's talking about Jesus. Jesus, we're talking about Yeshua. But I do want to ask you this, Tamara. You've had 6 near-death experiences, NDE. I mean, don't you ever get to the point where enough with the NDEs? Can't we just do this while I'm alive? I mean, what an amazing experience. I mean, the one I read about when you were 5, well, that was your first one, right?
No, I had one, which I didn't really know it was a NDE, but I had a prenatal, and that's where I saw my mom pregnant with me and was losing blood and was losing me, and the whole conversation and what happened. And that was considered one. I was really not concerned about myself. I was just had a lot of love and concern for her. But I guess the one that, kind of really kicked it off was 3. And then I had one at 3, 4, 10, and 28. And the one at 3, I was playing with my cousins in a antebellum type home, and we were playing hide and seek. And there was a dresser, and under the dresser, she was downstairs, I was upstairs, and she was counting. I was trying to hide. I'm squealing like, hey, trying to find a place. And I'm jumping around. And under the dresser was a nail hammered in, and it went through, when I jumped, I was jumping pretty hard. It went through the skull of my skull. And I was bleeding. Yeah. I thought it was water. And then I just passed out. And I didn't know what it was. It was so fast. And I always, kid and say that if you want to connect immediately to God through your crown chakra, that will do it.
That's the way to do it. Yeah.
It did it. Oh yeah. So, and I think a lot of the head injuries too, but after that, that happened. I mean, I had an angelic experience with Uriel. I didn't know at the time any of this stuff, but later on I kept hearing Uriel, and I knew that was my guardian angel, which means she's an archangel, she, the fire of God. But there was I saw myself above my body, all of that. And I could see myself above my body, but I could see in every room, I could see outside all at the same time. And I could see beings of light come into the house. I felt like they were there for support, and I knew them, but I didn't know who they were. I mean, after all, I'm a little over 3, I don't know too many people. And I'm seeing this being, it looks 9 or 10 feet tall, very bright, and it felt a very holy presence, their hands over my head. So I felt like they were healing my head. And then I heard, this is not your time, you have much to do. And then I was right back in my body, feeling all the pain and everything that came with it. And then I literally had a hole in my head. I had 2 years. It feels like there's a joke somewhere, but because your skull, you have to let it grow back naturally.
Yeah.
You can't, there's no way to really, that's just the only way. And so I started seeing spirit people at 3, and they look like us. They look like us. And I really didn't have anyone to talk to. and then about these things. And to me, I thought they were normal. I didn't find out later on that none of this was considered normal. And then at 4, my mom was dating this radio guy. She just had to have this man and these DJs, these radio people. And she just had her, it was the hot, he was the hottest happening thing going on in her small town in Hickory, North Carolina. And so she wanted me to meet him because at this point I'm born. The wedding with my real dad was shotgun. I think it lasted 2 weeks. They were just young. So she went back home with my grandparents, which is a cool deal because they had money and things and they fed me good. So that was fine. But she wanted to create her own life as a young woman and have a family. So she wanted me to meet him. And that particular day that we set up, it was like a day date so he could meet me. It was just bad weather. It had been snowing. It was icy. I mean, really nobody was out, but she wanted to go anyway. My grandmother was very hesitant about this. She didn't think we should go. And we went and had pizza. We went and had ice cream. I don't know why in the winter, but we did. And then we went back to his radio station, Channel 1. And while they were talking, they were in another room. They were actually arguing. They were in another room because she wanted to get married. He wanted to wait till he had more money. And I was in a room saying, hey, you can pick all the albums out that you want. And so when we left, they just got through arguing. And he's like, I'm not ready yet. And so when she was ready to get out of the house, she was ready to move on. And he wanted to wait to prepare more. And so when they left, it wasn't a mile down the street. And he was speeding. I mean, he was speeding. It was packed ice. So he ended up, the car turned around 180. We hit a tree and it was those old cars, a Pontiac, where they had the big seats in the front. So I ended up going through the windshield, and it as soon as I had the impact, I was thrown out of my body at that moment. I didn't feel any pain. That's the good news when you have this kind of thing happen. I was just out. And I perceived being in a black tunnel, although it could have been, a portal. I don't know what it was, but it felt like a tunnel. And then at the end of the tunnel, Jesus was coming. He was kind of just floating toward me with his hands stretched out. He had the holes in them, which we didn't grow up. I didn't have any. My grandmother, I mean, she loved Christ, and she, went to her church. She was very spiritual too. But my mom didn't talk about it. Stepdad. We didn't really raise really heavily about anything. I didn't even know. Honestly, at that point, I didn't even know the whole crucifixion story. Honestly, I didn't know any of that. But he came toward me. He did have the holes, and he had people behind him that I felt as though they were my family. But he told me I had to go back. And I said, I can't. And he said, you can and you will. And so I didn't go to the really higher levels then. But when I came back, I did see like a rip to the right side, like a rip in, I don't know, the universe, time, dimension. I don't really know, but it looked like, I guess it was like a God portal, like creation, but it was not scary. It was amazing. It was light and almost fiery and orangey. And then beside of it was my angel Uriel, which also had those colors. And then in the front, I saw them taking the car out in the front, and I'm still not really in my body. I'm just kind of hovering around. And then I'm looking behind, I'm seeing this fire station, which was closed that day, but there was a lot of firemen standing around wearing old timey costumes, like, because they were spirit people. And I saw like 200-300 spirit people like hanging out outside. And then one lady leaned in, nobody could see her but me. And she leaned in, she goes, hi, I'm Judith Hefner. Your grandmother's friends with my mom. And she has a jewelry store and blah, 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 and started talking. And she had like a little pillbox hat. And so all these different dimensions are going on. And then where we hit the tree, you got the scene of these good old boys removing, they had a Wagoneer, they're trying to chain and pull the front of the car that's wrapped around the tree out. But then in front of that, then you've got a Native American woman and guy she has a baby, and they have a fish on a stick cooking it. And then I'm seeing people in the 1800s walk by. Now, this is, nobody's out.
So you had like 4 or 5 dimensions happening at once.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. Now, were they just something I was seeing into from another dimension? Maybe. Were they all happening layered on top of this? Maybe. I don't really know. Exactly. I'm seeing all these different dimensions. And so I think that says a lot about who we are, that we're a lot more than just this physical realm.
Absolutely.
I have to ask this, and I'm just wondering, Tamara, are you willing or comfortable with channeling and bringing in Yeshua and Jesus with us right now?
You know, I love him so much. Okay, yeah, I don't mind at all, but I want to tell you, this is the really good one. Okay, so this is the really good one. This is the good one. So when I was 5, we ended up moving. My mom married this man, and he was trying to get papers to adopt me, right? So we moved to Raleigh, North Carolina, to the radio station WKIX, and we were there, and I got very, very sick. And I started having, well, there was a lot of sexual abuse going on. And when my mom would take off and work temp jobs, it was just horrible. And I tried to tell her I didn't want to be alone, you know, with this guy. But I was a little kid, so I didn't really have the words. And so I would pray a lot to Jesus, and I would say, I really need your help. And I used to say, can you kill him? But I didn't know killing was bad. Then I started feeling after a while, gee, I think this isn't good. You know? And then I said, well, all right, I guess that's not good, right? I just want to stop it. Well, you can take me. That's fine. I don't mind. Just take me instead. It's not a big deal. So I had strep throat. I was very ill. We were staying in some new apartments, and it got really bad within a couple of days. They did not take me to the doctor or anything. My fever got up to 103.9. It got worse than that, but that's where it was at that point. And my mom called the hospital, and they said, put me in ice. They did that. Awful. When you're freezing, you don't want to be in ice. And then she cleaned me up, put me to bed, and within an hour, I was soaking wet, and I was half conscious. So finally, she said, we've got to take her to the doctor. He used his actual radio card that had the insignias on it and all that. And at the time, that was the night. I mean, it's just crazy if you think about it. It's the night that Martin Luther King was assassinated. So you weren't allowed to go out. And I'm from the South. So there were riots, there were problems, it was not good. And so they had National Guards everywhere, like checkpoints, you couldn't go. And so we had to go out. So we stopped at the first, and they said, oh, you know, what's your problem, sir? You know, so my daughter's, she's dying. And so he called ahead to all the other barricades and to the hospital. So when we got to Rex Hospital in Raleigh, I had like a whole team waiting to get me, but I died on the way to the hospital. But I was above my body looking at all the fires, and I was just kind of really mildly interested. And so when we get to the hospital, I'm still above, and I'm just observing and watching all this. But when they take me into this, it looks like surgery room, but they clocked me in at 15 minutes, DOA, code blue. But then they worked on me for a couple hours. They kept losing my pulse, my lungs collapsed. So I was on and off dead for 2 hours. Jesus resurrected me though. So, you know, it's all good. He can do that kind of stuff.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no stopping him. So I would look, I'm zooming around the hospital, looking at candy machines, talking to people that can see me. Cause you know, if some people are not in a good way in a hospital, you know, they're not gonna, they're not going back home. They could see me. And then I thought I was an angel, and I thought this is really great. And then I would go back and check on my body, and they were pumping goop out. Well, my mom never told me any of this stuff. I actually approached her a couple of years ago, and I said, is there something you want to tell me? And she didn't want to talk about it. And maybe she feels guilty for letting it get that far. I don't really know. I said, it's all okay. It all worked out. Don't worry about it. But I would go back and check. And then finally I went back in, and everybody's crying, and they had put a sheet over me. They put a sheet over me. And then they left the room, and there was 2 spirit people in there. One was, well, they were Catholic. I knew that because they were holding rosaries. I mean, I didn't know a lot. I knew there was a certain kind of religion. I might not even know the word Catholic back then, but I knew that. And they were standing together, and the woman, there was a man and a woman, and the woman said, and she was dressed like a nun, and she said, "Blessed are the innocent." And I was like, why do they seem so upset? Like, this is what I was thinking. But it was really cool. I found out recently that older hospital on the premises, Rex, actually got a picture and everything, used to be a Catholic hospital. So I thought that was cool. And so then I'm looking, isn't that neat? But they were spirit people. So they really took their job seriously. So then I looked down, and I'm not in that place, that room, that hospital room. I'm in this pasture. It looks like a really pretty park. And I look down, and the most amazing person's in front of me. Yeshua's holding my hand, and he's kneeling down. He's holding my right hand, and he has the most beautiful, I mean, he's got great teeth. I don't know why they don't ever show his teeth. His teeth look really good, and he's got dimples. Like, he's really handsome, you know? And so he's looking at me, and I went, "You're that man I talked to," because my grandmother told me I should talk to him, you know, and thank goodness I do that. Anyway, he thought that was funny. He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I am." And so I saw kids playing in the pasture on like a roundabout, and they would, you know, push, and he said, "You have to go back." And I said, "Well, they're here, so why can't I stay?" He laughed a lot. He thought that was funny. And he said, "No, you really have to go back." And I said, "No, I'd rather be here with you." And so he said, "I have something to give you." And I said, "A toy?" Because, you know, I'm 5 years old. I mean, that's where my head is. I said, "A toy?" And he thought that was funny too. And he had on a white robe with a blue sash, but it was very humble. It was nothing fancy. And then he took off a part of his robe. It looked like a woven straw belt. And he put it around my left wrist. And he said, "Much is given. Much is given. And much you'll give through." And then he started talking about, through you were covered in my protection, wisdom, and love. Through the big things, the small things will be accomplished, and through the small things, the big things will be done. Well, I got that backwards. Through the small things, the big things will be accomplished, and through the big things, the small things will be acknowledged. That's it. And then he. I was kind of begging pretty heavy to stay with him. And then he said, "But your mother needs you." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "She'll be fine." That's what I said. "She'll be fine." And he said, "No, you've got more love in you than she has for herself." And I said, "So what am I supposed to do?" He said, "You're supposed to show her love." I said, "I don't know how to do that." He goes, "Well, that's something I know a little bit about, and there's no right or wrong way to do that." He said, "You'll figure it out." And so he did say I could stay a while longer. And I was actually in an induced coma 3 days. And I don't know how long I actually was there with him, though, like in heaven years. I don't know. And we walked around. And as he walked, the grass had a life of its own. The grass, first of all, it was real soft. Everything was really pretty. The colors were amazingly vibrant. But as he walked, it's like each blade of grass was praising him, like gratitude. And then the petals on the flowers and the trees and the clouds. And I was even going, does he know they're all kind of following him? And when he said I could ask him anything I wanted. So I asked him things like, what is his place? What is energy? How do things work? I just asked him, you know, I don't know. Some of the stuff probably was stupid that I asked. And then he began to tell me something. So we can sit in front of this tree, which looks much like your tree behind you, Jen. It blossomed out. It was And then he said, which I didn't know about tree and life. And so I didn't know about any of that. But he said, we can sit in front of this tree. There was a boulder there, a rock. And he said, but we don't eat from this tree. And I'm not thinking about eating the tree stuff, but it looked like either dogwoods or Japanese cherry blossoms with little red grapes. And it was very pretty. And we sat there, and he began to say that we manifest, that things happen in heaven. They do things. He said, what? Because anything you want to do, it's all here. Everything's a duplicate of what's here there. He said, but without the decay and all. He said, everything's here. If you want to go skiing, you can go skiing, or whatever you want to do. And I said, okay. And he said, but you manifest through your thoughts, which is your thought waves. And he said, you manifest. And he said, you also, through your words, you manifest it. I said, so you need to be mindful in your words you use. He said, it takes longer on earth and it's instant in heaven. I said, really? I want to try it. So I visualized us being in a little boat, and we were in this little boat, and then 3 little fish came up, and he picked one up and talked to it and said hello. And then he put it back down, and he said, that's how we fish in heaven. And so, and I find that's even more true than ever, that our words, that's why I try to speak life to people. I pray with everybody. Like, I don't care who they are. I just want to bless them. You know what I mean? I just want to bless them, have God just bless them and speak life to people. And because it's so, nobody turns that down, a beautiful blessing of love, So with that, I was there, I don't know how long. Things are still coming out with that. But when I came back, he said, it's time to go back. And so when I went back, I sort of cheated. I didn't go back in my body. I still kept helping people in the hospital.
Well, you were 5, so.
You need to stay alive. Your baby needs you. You need to get pulled through this. I don't know. And he's probably going, oh gosh, she doesn't listen. So there was this man named Dr. Tippin, and I think he used to be like the hospital administrator. He was bald. He had a little bow tie. And he said, little girl, you got to go back in your body. I said, no, it's going to hurt. So then Jesus just showed up. I need a t-shirt. And Jesus showed up, put some fairy dust on it or something. And he said, it's time to go back in. And I said, no, it's going to hurt. He goes, don't worry, I've already prepared it. And as soon as he said that, I was back. But he has been with me since then. And it's kind of been a big secret. But the thing is, everybody can have this. I mean, he just loves to talk to people. And then I saw him in the flesh, July 17th, 2017, going to a Hall & Oates concert. That was a trip. And I didn't expect, look, he can do anything. I didn't ask. I was shocked, but very pleasantly and euphorically so. But I did. We were on the way going to a Hall & Oates concert, and it usually doesn't get dark in the summer till like 9 p.m. So it was 6:15, because we had to be at the concert at 7. So we're trying to find a parking place uptown Charlotte. So there's condos and things. It's not really moving that fast. So this happened for about 3 or 4 minutes. This was like, it wasn't, I think that's a long time. So we're looking, my husband's looking to the left, I'm looking to the right. We're trying to find, cheap parking that's not too far away. And that's all I'm really thinking. And out of the blue, I'm looking to the right. I sit up straight and I yelled out like a crazy person, my Lord. And then I start looking in the distance, a tiny little figure in the middle of the road, the medium in the grass. And I asked myself, just in thinking, he could have appeared in my bedroom. He could have been, why there? Why in the middle of the road? Is there a statement there? And he was ahead. He wasn't behind. He was like far ahead. So it was like, you know what I mean? Is there why there did he appear? He's ahead, checking things out before me. Like, is there some significance? So as I get close to him, I can see him, and I'm really checking him out. I am like, there's no way this can be Yeshua. There's absolutely no way. And I think this is just someone who really, really looks like him. That's all. And I said, that's all it can be. So as I get closer, I'm staring at him. He has on modern looking clothes. And it's interesting, the clothes he had on, I had on my Seeking Heaven channel with Sharon Millman, and she's seen him before in the flesh. He had on the same outfit for her. I'm like, we thought that was the funniest thing, but he had on a white tunic, top to his calves, and it looked very pressed. He looked very clean. And then he had on brown, green, khaki pants, and he had matching sandals, not Birkenstocks, not hippie sandals, but just 2 single straps of leather. And I could see as I got closer that him standing in the grass around his feet. I was looking to see if he was with anyone and if he was looking at anything. Yeah, he was looking at me the whole time. That's what he was looking at. It was like, I thought, well, I expected him to act like a person, like, oh, he's with someone. He's looking at something or looking at the car, like we would look at cars or but he wasn't. He was just looking at me. And so, and I thought, well, that's a coincidence. That's probably a coincidence. Maybe I look like someone. I don't, I can't register this. So as I get closer and I'm looking for markings, I'm thinking he's obviously has some tattoos somewhere. So I'm looking for that. I'm looking for jewelry. I'm looking for any of that. And as I get close, I can see he's tall. He's 6 foot, 6'1". He's muscular. He's lean, but he's muscular. And he looks really healthy and radiant, and great dimples, beautiful smile. His skin looked like he had a tan with like high yellow in it. So he looked olive, complected. He didn't really look like anything I've seen, to be honest. He didn't look Caucasian. He didn't look, well, I don't know what he looked like, but he just looks like himself. And then his hair was brown with like caramel highlights in it. It was about 3 inches below his collarbone. But it looked really bouncy, like he should be in a hair commercial, looked really bouncy and clean. He looked super, super polished, like really polished. So much so, I thought, this is a metrosexual hippie. This has got to be a model. We have filming.
If we took the images that have been depicted in human, in the shows and that sort of thing, is there a resemblance to what he actually looks like? Because the description that you gave is very similar to a lot of the images that are out there, but I'm just wondering how sort of close they came to that.
Okay, so I'm just going to tell you Tamara's opinion. Okay, and
yes.
we're just having fun. And, and I know you would think, why? I've asked him before, why does this even matter? He's like, why does this even matter? But he's really better looking. He's good looking. I mean, he is hot. I mean, I hate to say that. God forgive me for I have sinned, but he is. He's absolutely stunning. And he had blue-green eyes, but piercing. And so when I got close up to him, at this point, I'm like gawking. Okay. So we're close. Like I'm really close to this, to this person. So now I'm leaning over the back of my husband's seat who's driving. And luckily I have a long dress on. I remember I still have pictures from that day. We had a sundress with God mandalas all over it, which was so perfect for that day, right?
Wow, cool.
And and so it was like in blues and yellows, but I'm leaning over the seat. I don't even care because I've gone through everything it could be, like really fast in my head. And then all of a sudden I'm looking really close at his face and something. It was euphoric. I mean, I was hysterically crying and laughing at the same time. I was what they call, they talk about it in the Bible. I didn't really know what that meant. I was in ecstasy.
Yeah.
It's like euphoric. It's beyond euphoric. I was like, I was like, I cried. Again, my poor husband, but yeah. And so I'm looking at him going, like my whole body was shaking. So when I look at his face, most people, if he was a real person, like we would expect, would look at me like, what's wrong with you? Or laugh. He didn't. He looked right through me and in me. And the expression is one I've never seen in a human, I can only use the word to explain like babies and puppies or kitty cats, but he had the face of purity.
Yeah.
It's so intense. He didn't have a human, like, I thought he had a little smirk or it wasn't, it was holy. I mean, and it was
just
pure.
Peace, just pure peace.
Peace and love. And
yeah.
I've never seen that on a human, and he never flinched and he looked right through me and like at me, like it was like, it was so all encompassing. And so I slapped my husband on his back and said, look, and then as soon as I did, I turned, he was gone. There's no way he could leave that fast, but he was solid. I saw the grass wrap around his feet and all of that. And, the big question is, why did he show up? And I don't really have an answer. It could be a couple guesses, could be something simple to say, I love you. It could be maybe to bump up my faith.
And maybe he's got some more messages for you to be able to share. Now, you wrote a book, Love from Heaven. Now, is this what I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but it's definitely something that I do want to purchase and read. Can you just tell us a little bit about that book?
Yeah, and don't worry about it. You two are amazing. I'm still finishing up the end and doing some rewrites on it. And it's about my 6 near-death experiences, Love from Heaven. And it's my 6 near-death experiences, the gifts I received and the wisdom I learned. So I'll have a lot of Jesus stuff in there, and I'll just give you copies when the time comes. So
that'd be awesome. I look forward to reading that.
I know you love Yeshua so much. So
absolutely.
So I think it's timely. I think, and one of the cool things, and it really reflects what you two are doing, where you're totally point on what he wants right now. So after I did the Jesus Speaks, I would post it on Facebook, not the whole message, just like, here's the link to this week or whatever. And I got taken down. And then I had this non-denominational Yeshua site where people would put things on there, because I saw some people I came across were suicidal or upset or lonely or depressed. I thought this may help them feel better. So people would post things like songs, or some lady would draw pictures, and they went and they took all the Jesus picture down and all the thing, and all the scripture, and people would post. And I'm like, what? So I was really upset by this. I'm like, I don't understand. Like, I'm not controversial. I'm not. I mean, I don't talk politics. I let people do their thing. I didn't understand this. So Jesus told me, and that was July that happened, and I lost the Facebook account. Now I'm up because I have another computer, but I don't trust putting a lot of stuff on there. So he said YouTube, and he said put it up on YouTube in August. And I said, well, what is this thing? He gave me the name, and he said it was Seeking Heaven, and it was the whole thing, the near-death experience and other phenomena, because I told him I want to bring some of those people in. But he told me later what that meant: seeking heaven, see the king, he
in heaven.
And I put Aveen. I said, what is Aveen? And he goes, one that descends from above to below. Did you know that? How cool is that? He said, look it up. He was a rabbi. He goes, look it up. So see the king, he descends from above to below. And I was like, that is really cool. And he told me that like a year and a half later. I was like, that is freaking cool. And so he said, I want all religions, all things, all mysteries. I said, what about Bigfoot? He goes, sure, go ahead. And he did. And he said, everything. And I said, well, and he said, I love everybody. And he said, it's really time to pull everybody together. It's time. And I said, okay. He said, but people this day and time love to be entertained. You can make them laugh. He said, you'll still talk about me. You can't help it. He said, but just have different people on there. And I was like, okay. And then he said, I said, well, he said, them coming closer to my Father is a step in the right direction. I said, well, that's true. And then I said, well, what about, they may not know you. He goes, don't worry about it. I'll handle that. I'll figure that part out. He said, but just have this opening. So he told me 2 weeks ago why. He goes, it was always you. He has jobs for everybody. It's awesome. Yeah. He said, because I know anything on the whole, let's say on the whole, I put a disclaimer, that anything that's pure, like dogmatic Christian, but then I know anything on the new age, or like I could sit down and I could line your chakras up right now. I mean, there's nothing. I've had I know them all. I mean, the Starseeds seen UFOs, even had Astor come through with Jesus on the Galactic Federation. Oh, you could have made this stuff up. But it's a big world, but I can talk to both. And I've been reading on mysteries and not dark paranormal stuff, but like Edgar Cayce and things like this since I've been like 12 years old. So I never thought it would be handy for any reason, but he wants to pull everybody together in love and unity. He said, now is the time. He said, it's time. And so,
and I think something that I think something that I've sort of like been saying is 2022 is the year that we make the decision whether we're going to move to that 5D or we're going to remain where we are, because it's I think this year in particular, 222, if you do much on numerology, is, it's a year of growth, and it's the year that we're going to really be able to spiritually ascend, if that's what we choose to do. And I think this is the year that we have to start to bring people together, and it's the year that we have to start really showing them that there is nothing to fear, that fear is not, because we're living in fear at the moment. We've got craziness going on around us. It's we're in a state of people not knowing what to do, people being scared that something's going to happen. And this is when faith really has to come in and pull us together. So I know that Carl is itching to talk to Joshua. Joshua's about to.
He said you've got a question for him.
Well, I have a lot of questions for him, but Jen just kind of hit on it with the bizarre craziness going on in the entire world. What advice does Jesus have for us or any of the other teachers on how to awaken from this nightmare and how to end it? Please, Yeshua, let us know.
I can't say this before I what happens is I'll start talking and then it'll be more him. But for right now, he's answered that. I'm just real quick. I'm talking right now for a second, but 3.5 years ago, he gave me a download. I woke up, he's still talking. It's like 14 pages. And I'm like, and I won't go into what it is, but it was kind of strange and unpleasant. Yeah. And we'll put it like that. And I went, why are you telling me this? This is Jesus. This is really weird. And he goes, yeah, it's me. Would you just write it down? I said, why? What can I do about anything? He wanted me to know that he knew stuff that was happening 3.5 years from now. Okay. Okay. He's timeless. Okay. And he would not put this the way our God would not put us here now to set us up for failure. I'm going to be
absolutely
honest.
I agree 100%. Yeah,
it would not.
And I believe that there are lessons that we are supposed to be learning during this time. And I've always said that since all of this started, I've seen such a greater connection with people and their higher self and with source than I think I've ever seen. There are more people that are starting to transcend. They're starting to really get in touch with who they are, which we never, because I find society, we're so busy all the time. We're so busy doing this and doing that and doing this and doing that we don't take time to sit down and connect. And, I've always said one of my purposes is that of connection, and which is where I go into super conscious success. But I think that one thing that has come out of this whole experience is that people have started to really figure out who they are and what their purpose is in this world. And, and I think that that's, if we can look at something positive that has come out of it, I think that is one of the things.
It's a big thing. And what you just said is really, really important. And so did you used to sell candles or essential oils before all this stuff happened?
No, I didn't, but I love them. And that's the thing, like
or have like a little shop set up?
No, I haven't.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
Well, the reason that I'm saying is that I think that your path is taken a different direction because of all this, a much higher one. And you might not even connected with Carl. And I certainly wouldn't be doing a podcast. I was doing things on stage, talking about my NDEs for these things like Southern Women's Show. And I go across the US and it was great because I did these, we had like 30,000 people a weekend. I did multiple things on stage and I could say, hey, you want to see God working through people? Here you go. And it was just cool to me to see Holy Spirit move through, and then the different, and then messages. It was beautiful, but I wouldn't have done all of that. Now I have networks of people all over the world. So
yeah, I mean, I am actually a qualified naturopath. That's where I've started.
Okay.
And it was
okay.
And it was probably 3 years ago that I started I mean, I've always been spiritual. My grandmother, like yours, was very religious. But my parents, we didn't so much go to church, but I've always believed. And I've also had a couple of near-death experiences as well, which is quite interesting. But in saying that, a few years
Really,
ago,
you're just brushing that over.
no, it's nothing as intense as yours, but it definitely did connect me a lot deeper.
Oh, you're both beautiful beings. They're all wonderful. Any experience you can have.
Oh, absolutely. And so a few years ago, I went through my awakening, and that's when I really started to connect, and I gave up my naturopathy side, and I started to really delve into the spirituality, and I haven't looked back. And I have come across the most incredible people. I can't believe how amazing the people are that have come into my life throughout this whole experience. And, you know, like I said, I use my intuition, and everybody is just beautiful, beautiful people. So I'm so blessed.
Well, you're beautiful, and you're listening. And I think that he likes people that listens, because he really does want to help. And he also knows that he knows what we need and what would be a good fit. But I agree. And I think it's the people that I've been meeting all over the world, they're more like family.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like part of my soul. And so as Jesus would tell me, he said, I'm getting the band back. So he's pulling all these souls together. Isn't that cute, getting the band back? And then that's precious. But he's showing me that, like, there is a fog. It looks like a dark fog, like over planet Earth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's people's negative thoughts. That's like all this gossip of news, any kind of news, wherever it is. They're there to make money from what? News, right? So it's got to be, you know, some kind of chaos or something. So I'm not saying that some of it isn't real, but they've got to really just drag it out. And so you have all this stuff here around like a fog. But what I'm saying is what's happening with light workers for the first time. They used to work more like a lone wolf. And now there's this golden grill outside of this fog. And that's where our consciousness is gathering in our astral state, and we're helping each other with a love vibration. And it's all, I mean, it's all Christ. You could say Christ consciousness is all him. Okay. And he's pulling together, and we're the ones that's helping to heal this planet, because we refuse for anything to take our joy and to take our human triumph. But Carl wants to know what Jesus has to say. So let's see. I don't know what he's got to say. You want me to see what he's got to say? I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Oh, he does want to say something real quick. You know, he talks to me all the time. He's talking about, he's saying real quick, he's just, and then he'll go into his thing and do this, but that he's proud of you both a lot at what you're doing. And he said that you don't realize that that I speak through you, and that the messages through just the conversations, how many people are turning on like light bulbs because of this. Also, real quick, he does want to mention something about I'm not going to go too much into it, but he is acknowledging there is like a family conflict. And I do believe it's with Jen about some sisters, some issues, and maybe what you're doing and not really following suit or really getting what you're doing. He says, it doesn't matter. I know what you're doing, and I love you just the way you are. Just send her love.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
So he says, don't let that distract you. He goes, I'm working on her. Just, it's okay. She's got a different way. That's all. And also he's saying about you real quick. Sorry. He just wants to give you messages. I don't know why.
Awesome.
Personal ones, personal messages. And then he will say his thing to everybody. But he's bragging about you. He dotes over people all the time. But he's talking about Carl, and he said that you're very good at, I don't know if you write music, it looks like poetry, but he's talking about that he wants you to be more comfortable in expressing yourself more in this way. Remember earlier I said about I used to sing the the Lord's Prayer. I'm not telling you have to go do that. I'm just saying that there's something to the harmony of music, and even with like binary healing and all of that with sound, with your belief system, your personal, he says, yours. He said, you got it. That's what he's saying. You got it. He said, you know what you need to say, but he said it, instead of just saying it, he said, you could say it in a way that's, I want to say melodical. Okay.
Yeah.
Like chords. And he said, and I feel like you don't even have to be like, get a whole bunch of musicians. You probably do it in a studio, but he's saying that he would like to see you express yourself in this way, because he feels it would give you great joy and it would help others. It would give them joy as well. Do you understand that?
Take up music lessons again. I used to play the bass guitar. And this.
Well, let it evolve and enjoy yourself. And you know what he says to me? He told me, because I got crazy. Okay, so a few months ago, I got this really cool bass guitar to learn to play bass guitar. And Jesus said, you know what he told me? He goes, I'm a really good musician. I could show you how. I'm really good. That's what he told me.
Wow.
And,
Cool.
And I know that's really cool. But there's a guy, Kevin Zadai. Zadai. It's kind of an odd name, but when he had an NDE, and when he was over there, he could play music, and Jesus showed him how to play saxophone. And so when he came back, he can play saxophone. Isn't this a trip? So hey, why
cool.
not? Why not? I mean, he's fun, you know. I mean, he definitely would be a great jam partner. So let's see what he has to say for you. But he loves you so much. And okay, so let's do a little exercise first. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to just really quickly just do a blessing and prayer over you. And then I'm going to ask him to have his love fill our essence. And I want you to feel him. Okay. Forget it's Tamara. I know it's strange. Okay. Just ignore me. He does this with a lot of people, and he likes it, and he uses everybody to speak through, but in their own words. So let me get a glass of water. And doing a lot of spiritual work, water is so necessary. Mm-hmm. It's also holy. So another thing I do is pray over your water and make it like holy water. Mm-hmm. So anything, whatever purifies it. Okay, so let's do that real quick, and then I'll go into it. Okay, here we go. Father God, or Father, Mother God, however you prefer, creator of all things, I thank you for this time today. I thank you for Jen, for Carl. I ask that you bless them from the top of their head down to the bottom of their feet. And I ask that your love and your purity surround them, and that your mighty holy archangels draw close to them, and that inspires them and gives them the words that they need. And I ask that your son Yeshua be here, and to give a message not only to Jen and Carl, but to bless them, be with them always, to let them know that they're loved and they're supported here on earth and in heaven. And I thank you for letting me be a vessel, and also for them being a vessel. And we're sending you our love and many thanks. Amen. Now let's see. Just give me a second. Okay, just remember this. He's showing me, I don't know who it was, either one of you, but he's showing me this memory because he's having a laugh. It looks like a sock monkey or socks with a puppet thing. So I don't know who did puppets in their childhood. He's showing me that. I don't know who that's at you.
Did you, Carl?
I don't know. He's showing me, and he said, this will be better than that. I don't know. He made somewhat of a funny laugh. So the question, Carl, you restated that, and it was so passionate. Can you restate that again?
Yes. What is Jesus, Yeshua's advice for humanity dealing with the craziness of the world to gain some normality, yet lift ourselves to a higher level of enlightenment and understanding? But we have to overcome this because like he said, there's a fog. How do we lift the fog? How do we lift the fog of the craziness?
The fog is an illusion. Most people, the fog lives in their own mind. And you know that I am the lighthouse, but yet I want the light to live within you as well. There's always been talks of rumors of war and harsh words that have been said. Unfortunately, this has always been the case. But now there's so many that I've tried to herd them back as my sheep. I love them all. But there's those that are defiant and they want their own way. And I have not given up on them, but there is a cruelty in many now. But this is for me to minister to each person. And your mission is quite different. Yours is to be the love you were created to be, to shine bright, to be able to use all the skills that you've been given up until now, to be able to use your writing skills, your speaking skills, and most importantly, identifying with people through their hearts, because both of you are beautiful, empathic lovers of men. You care about others, and I see this, and it touches me, and therefore you have favor, and you always had it. As far as this world, and I'll say this more than once, walk with me and let me shine the way for you. There are so many distractions in this world between cell phones, computer gaming, television episodes that are on, and most of them are anchored in worldly things. They're not meant to inspire, but yours and your show, it does. And I really appreciate it. And people are looking more to these things. They've kind of had it and they're put out with the things that they can see on their local telly. They've had it. And so they're looking to people like you. They're looking for leaders. And I ask you not to be or do anything except what's already within you, and to remember why you're here. And I'm with you always, but I will show you. I understand the frustration you feel, Carl, because you're in a world that it's pretty much so many people are void of most spiritual principles, but let's just say they're unaware of them. And they need teachers, they need examples, but in a soft way, in a way that you're their friend, just like I'm yours. People need to relearn, and they need to understand how to be kind to one another. Things have gotten really off the tracks, this train, but this is why you're here. And this is why you're here, Jen. As this world, I see things differently than you. I see a place that's full of peace and harmony and people laughing once more. I see greater connections. I see families seeing the importance once more of being together and breaking bread with each other in the same room. Because we've gotten so off track, and even though there may be another agenda at play that's definitely not mine or my father's, it still works to the greater good. And my father condones and allows certain things, because look at us, here we are now. And what a beautiful thing for people to connect. Trust that I know each of your lives, what's going on. Trust I work through you. There's nothing you need to do to have me as your best friend and your advocate, for I loved you before you were. Don't worry about the wildliness of this world. I know some days it seems like it's the Wild West out there, but put your attention on me, on my heart, my love, and my face. And when I look at you, I'm so proud. I'm proud of all of you. Don't stay focused on the things that don't serve you. And that's anything. Yes, you can still be kind and send people love, but don't let these things distract you off your path and off what you know is right. And that all comes from following your heart. Things are working at a higher play than you even know. Yes, this is a spiritual reckoning, if you want to say. There are things going on, but no worries. This is something that has been allowed to take place so we can once more grow again. Just because a field full of flowers dies for one season doesn't mean they're not going to come back. And it doesn't mean that you can't also replant them someplace else. There's a new creation that's happening now, and it's one that's going to be of a higher vibration, and one where people and my Father and the order of things is set right and appreciated once more. Wouldn't this be so grand and so happy to see all of us loving each other just the way that I intended? Wouldn't that be spectacular? And you think, what would be the price of that? Would it matter if that's what was achieved? So let me handle the big things, and you work on the things that you're best at. And just know, I always have your back. And I love you. You all have favor. Follow me. Look to my words, to my face, and put trust in me and not man. For I adore each of you. I give you my love, Yeshua.
Wow. Thank you.
Wow. That was awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, just give me a minute. I'm just kind of high right now. Just give me
Yeah.
just give me a minute.
Me too.
I'm kind of high. Wow. I'm kind of high.
The energy I felt from that was just incredible. Like it was almost like I was experiencing it. I mean, I was, but it was crazy. I had chills the whole time.
You know, Jen, I don't know if you felt this too, but what Yeshua just told you and I in the world, he just confirmed how I felt, that we're on track. And now I still get judgment, but egoic judgment, but now what I've been doing and studying and living, and now the judgment happens, but it just falls away, and I stay focused. And when I do, before this podcast, I came on and said, just like you, I said, thank you for letting me be a vehicle for you to work through, and so
because
it was confirmation for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And because that's what we are vehicles that Jesus is coming through to be able to get the message out. All of us light workers out there that are trying to bring that light to the world and to lift that fog. And like he said, it's an illusion. It's something that doesn't have to. When I visualize the world, I don't visualize the world the way that it is, or the way that we see it to be. I visualize it just as he said, with a lot of happiness and love and joy, and all of this craziness, the families that are connected on a much deeper level, like I said, those that are connected much deeper to the higher self. And I think that if we keep that in perspective and we have faith and we know that everything's going to work out in the end, then I think we're all on the right path. So thank you so much for doing that, Tamara.
You're welcome. I don't do that a lot, but he wants everybody to know that you can do it too. He wants to talk to everybody. He's real, but it is his consciousness talking to all of us. I mean, if you love him, that's pretty much so. I mean, you don't even have to love him, but it helps to connect through the love, just like it does with people we care about. But he talks through you too all the time. He's so proud. And he's proud of everybody. Here's the thing. I refuse to have some bully to steal my joy, right?
Yeah.
And I have some bully to decide what kind of world that I'm going to have, where it's going to be controlled and blah, blah, blah. It's some weird dystopia. I disagree with that. And I choose love, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't have to go along with that. We can say, no, we're going to do this. And the thing is, if you have God, you have everything. But I thought what I do remember, I don't remember a lot of what he just said. It's strange, and I won't remember anything in just a few minutes, but I do remember.
You can look at the podcast, Tamara.
I will look at the podcast. I feel like it looks so weird when I do this, but I do forget, but I do think he said something about that they know things ahead of time. They're working on it. Don't worry about it. They got it covered. But the fact that it was important to let it get to this, because some people are hard-headed. It's going to take this. They go, oh my God, I can't believe this is going on. And it's sad that it's taken some people this long to wake up, and people are still waking up. But this is exactly, if we know this is God's plan, then it just feels right, and you're exactly where you should be. And the judgment you were talking about, Carl, and I was just having this conversation, but I've had people that that they're getting more verbal now. And so like on my podcast, what they'll do is I'll most people are awesome. Okay. But you're going to get, and someone warned me, as you become, more known and all that, whatever. I don't care about that, but I'm just, trying to put this platform out there that we have to create a soul community, that you're going to have trolls come out. And so I have people that go, that I can't believe you talk about, Jesus and blah, blah, blah. Then I have other people go, how dare you? You can't be a Christian if you're like this. I have people all the time to say really mean things. And, and if they are mean, but they have like somewhat a point, I'll actually respond. But if they're just being nasty, I'm like, sorry, no trolls.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to bring any negative stuff for people watching. We're going to keep the love. We want it safe and all that. But, he's been helping me with that, because I could tell you a couple of years ago, I'd be so upset crying about it. And now I'm like, wow, they must be really miserable to waste their time like this.
Tamara, the Course in Miracles actually points out that people who are mean or seem to be attacking, they're actually calling out for love. They're actually calling out for love. And as Gary Renard says, what do you do in that situation? Your response is love them.
Love. Yep.
Well, he said, would it always be kind? So you can say, I'm sorry you feel that way. But I have had a couple that I really harassed some of my guests, harassment. And I said, if you have a question or legitimate, you're welcome in love. But if you're going to be rude, this isn't a good fit. I'm still nice. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I still, it's all how you say it, or to say, you're welcome if you come in love, but otherwise this isn't cool.
Isn't the platform for you? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so it's just, it's just part of it, but you're right. I do think that some people reach out, in that way, that won't help, or they'll ask things. And, even my husband's like, why are you responding to that? Because you know what? I think some people want to know things. I don't think they're being mean. I think they just really want to know. And I always just, all we can do is answer the best that we can to say, well, I understand it as this. I could be wrong, but this is how. We can only speak from an I viewpoint. And so, and if we all bring our thoughts and our spiritual consciousness together, then, we'll help better understand who we are in this world and Christ even more.
Yeah.
Well,
absolutely.
I just have to say, we've been talking to the amazing Tamara Calder-Richardson, an evidential psychic medium. I love that term. It's been awesome. We've been talking for the last hour right here on Your Spiritual Shift. I know you work with people, you do consultations. How can people get a hold of you and connect with you?
Oh, that's very sweet. Thanks, Carl. I think the best, I do life path readings and, also medium, but then I do the Akashic record. Jesus always likes to show up. He does. And the readings he does. And then other people's guides and angels. It's just where I like to go. But it's southernbellemedium.com. If they go to Southern Belle, BELLE medium.com, and you can see readings. I read people all over the world with Zoom, and, they get a copy of things that it's very, personal and evidential to them. And so, and they're deep lately too. So if the life path readings, Jesus coming through, telling all sorts of stuff to people, and really unusual stuff. And they're like, yes, there's this big spiritual awakening going on with people. And he's like, wanting to talk to them. I mean, like, not people that are like light workers normally like us, but just like regular people, like nurses, doctors, teachers. They're like waking up, and it's beautiful.
Well, and you mentioned this earlier. You are on YouTube. You have a podcast. What's the name of your podcast?
Oh, thank you very much. It's called Seeking Heaven, the Near-Death Experience and Other Phenomena. And I call it for short, the Seeking Heaven channel. And I have near-death experiences, spiritually transformed experiencers. I have people that have had UFO experiences. I've had people talk about time travel mysteries. just to talk about the mysteries of this world and the other world, including dimensions. But I think it'd be great for y'all to be on my show sometime. I think we'd have fun. What do you think?
That would be cool. That would be cool. Totally
I
up
think
for
we
it.
would have a good time. So, be thinking about what you want to say, and, what you would like to bring, to the table, because you both have, spiritual backgrounds. And of course, Jen, you have your NDE, but think about it and then let me know. We'll do something fun.
Absolutely.
Well, hey, thank you, everything.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for being here, Tamara. Okay.
Thank you both.
Till next time.
Namaste and much love to both of you. I think you're both amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that, Tamara. Okay, bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.